Hey everybody, welcome to the lesson here at THSS Technology. This year we're going to be switching up our computer programming class and we're going to be designing a tower defense game. So let's get started. So first thing we're going to do here in Godot is we're going to create our root node as a 2D scene and we're going to rename that scene to main. Let's make that nice and easy. Today's lesson is going to be nice and simple. We're just going to build in some functionality so that when we're giving input to Godot, we can spawn a very basic tower. Now we're going to heavily modify this later in the year, but let's get started by making a very simple tower. So we're going to create a new scene up here and it is going to be a 2D scene. And let's just call this scene tower. And let's add a sprite 2D onto this. And let's drag our Godot icon for our basic sprite. And let's just scale it down a little bit to 0.5. And now let's save this tower scene. So we want to make sure that we're keeping our scenes nice and organized here. So let's create a new folder. Let's call this scenes. And we'll call it tower scene and we'll save. Okay, now that we have this scene all saved, we can actually close it up. And we're going to add our first script onto our main node here. Okay, so let's attach a script. Let's create a new folder called scripts to keep this organized even further. And main is fine for now. We can always change it up later if we want. Okay, so we have our very basic script here, and we are extending our node 2D, which is saying that this is the node that controls our main scene here. Okay, so let's kind of get started and think about what we need to do. First of all, we need to be able to bring that tower scene that we just made into our main scene here. So we're going to create a new variable, okay? And this variable we're going to call tower scene. You can call it whatever you like. I'm just going to call it that because it's kind of using the language that we're knowing here, okay? And to do that, we're going to do something called preload. And when you preload, you're bringing in an existing scene and making it readily available in this code here. And we can see when I type the preload code, it's going to look for our tower scene. It's going to see it there, and we're going to create that there, okay? And you're going to want to make sure that you're commenting your code throughout. I'll do some comments here, but I do want a little bit more from you guys in class. So let's say we're going to preload our tower scene into this code. And that's what we're going to be doing with this here. And let's create some space. Okay, now we need to create a function. There's lots of different functions in Godot that we'll be going over this year. And we're going to look for a function that is going to handle our input. Okay, so functions basically just kind of dictate when the code is being run. So we're going to do func, and we're going to input a function here. And if I just start typing in input, you're going to notice there is an input here, and there's an unhandled input. Now the difference between these is quite important. If you just do a function input, it's just going to look for when anytime an input is being entered, whether that be mouse, keyboard, microphone, touchscreen, whatever type of input you're putting into your games. A unhandled input is a little bit different. An unhandled input will only register the input if you're not committing to any other input. So what that basically means is if we do input event, it's going to override anything that's going on in our game anytime we put in input. But if we do an unhandled input, it's only going to allow that input if no other input is being used. So I know it's confusing. The easiest way to kind of think about it is we're going to use unhandled input. And the reason why is to say if we're in our menuing system, we're in our main menus and our options menus, and I'm clicking on objects in my menu, I don't want it to spawn towers while I'm in my menu. So if we used just regular input, it would spawn towers even in a main menu or a pause menu. But if we use unhandled input for spawning our towers, it'll only let us spawn the towers if there's no other input being detected. So that's why we are going about it that way. Okay, and you're going to want to make some kind of comment there to explain unhandled input, whatever makes sense to you. Okay, so I'm kind of expecting you guys to do that while you're designing your game. Okay, so now we're going to say if, because we're going to make an if, and we're going to say event. An event is referring to this event up here. Okay, so if the event is, let's see, we're going to do input event mouse button. Okay, so if the event is a mouse button that's being pressed, okay, now we can dictate what's going to happen. And we're going to clarify a little bit further even, and then we're going to say if event dot pressed, so if you're pressing the event, if you're pressing that mount button, and we're going to say event dot button index is equal to, and we will do mouse button left. Okay, so we're creating a series of if statements here. basically saying that if the event is a mouse button, and if you're pressing the button and the button is specifically the left mouse button, what do you want to happen? Okay, so I just put pass in there to get rid of the errors while we were kind of thinking about this. So what we're going to do now is, what do we want to happen? Well, we want to spawn or bring our towers into our map. And when we're doing coding, the terminology for spawning or bringing forth is a term called instantiate. Instantiate means to spawn or bring into the world. You're kind of like taking a blueprint and placing it down into your game. It's creating a copy of it, if you will. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new variable, and I'm just going to call this tower. Okay, actually I'll use lowercase for this. And my tower is going to be my tower scene, which is grabbing our preload up here from the top, right? So it's grabbing our tower scene here. And then with this tower scene, we are going to instantiate it, okay? Which means spawn it or create that blueprints to copy into our world, okay? So when I use this term tower now, it's going to take our tower scene and instantiate it and spawn it. So we've created a new definition here, a new word with this variable called tower. And tower is just take our tower scene and instantiate it, and which means just to spawn it. Okay. Now we need to say where we want to spawn it, right? Hold on, I gotta save this scene here. This will be our main scene. Okay. So we were able to use the tower and instantiate the tower scene, but nothing will actually happen. And if I go to test my game right now, let's select our current scene as our main scene and click, nothing's gonna happen because it doesn't know where to spawn the towers or anything along those lines. Okay. So let's create the system as to where we're gonna spawn the towers. So how we're gonna do this is we're going to take our tower.position, okay, the position of the tower. What's the tower? Well, this is the tower right up here. And we're going to make that equal to our event.position. So now it's going to spawn our tower, which is going to instantiate our tower scene, wherever the event is happening. What's the event? Well, that's the location as to where you're pressing the left mouse button, okay? So that's what the event is in that situation. Now, it's still not going to work properly, okay? Nothing's really happening here. I'm clicking, but it's not spawning the towers at my locations. And that's because we have to kind of, you can't have floating objects in your game. They can't just be living in your hierarchy or wherever. We have to tell them to make them a child of our main. You can't have parentless children. So we have to attach these towers, these instantiated towers, as a child of our main node, okay? So what we have to do is we have to say, add child, and what child are we adding? We're adding our tower. And that should work now. And now wherever I left click my mouse button, it is going to instantiate a tower wherever my event is, which is my mouse click, and it's making them all children of our main scene. So a little challenge for you guys, if you would like, see it so that you can spawn a tower both at your left click, but also your right click. So let's do it. So create another if event pressed, but I want you to be able to spawn towers with your right click as well, just to get used to the syntax that we've created here. All right, everybody, hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions, just come find me during a work block time. We will see you all later.